Hello, my name is Dr. Ishtiaq Ahmed. I am a political scientist. Mostly I do my videos in Urdu or you can say Hindustani Hindi because the audience that I address is in the subcontinent. But now I think this video that I'm making is in English primarily because I think the issue is beyond the Indian subcontinent and is actually part of my expertise on international affairs as a political scientist. But more importantly, in the Urdu video that I did, I mistakenly said President Bush, where what I meant was President Donald Trump. So there are three signatories to this MoU: President Trump of the United States, the President of Iran, and the Prime Minister of Pakistan. And it's an MoU, Memorandum of Understanding. Hopefully, if all goes well, after 60 days, this memorandum should be converted into a UN Security Council resolution so that it becomes part of international law. Let me begin by congratulating the Iranians for putting up a most impressive, valiant war of resistance against aggression by the United States and by Israel. The course of the war, what happened, we all know. It was followed by a ceasefire which Pakistan brokered. So that gave Pakistan a breakthrough in international, beyond. Pakistan had been suffering from a bad reputation. Now Pakistan is being congratulated for its services, and I join others in doing that. But mainly, this is a victory of the Iranians. The 14 points I think people are familiar with. Basically, it's a victory for Iran. According to the clauses of this MoU, Iran should be compensated an indemnity, war indemnity of 300 billion US dollars. Although afterwards, President Trump and Vice President Vance have said that it's not the United States who are going to provide this money. But in the MoU, it said the United States of America and its allies will provide. So maybe the Americans will be pressurizing the Gulf Arabs to put in these funds. That remains to be seen. Uh, the sanctions imposed on Iran are to be removed, as well as Iran's assets abroad, outside Iran, which were frozen because of American pressure, will also be released. So a lot of economic, financial help to Iran is going to emerge. What the United States and in a way Israel have obtained from this MoU is that uh, Iran will not produce a nuclear device, no nuclear weapon for Iran, and that a mechanism will be established to ensure that this uh, nuclear, this enriched uranium and whatever will be taken over from Iran through some mechanism, and the International Atomic Energy, body will supervise it. So that is what the Americans get, and by that token, also the Israelis. Both have agreed, the United States and Iran, that the Strait of Hormuz will be opened and Iran will not be charging anything for the passage of commercial ships and so on. Simultaneously, the Americans will withdraw the blockade of Iranian ports and so on. So normality would be returning to this region. Also important is that uh, let me see if there is something important. All this, I think the main points I have laid down. The final deal will be endorsed. What will happen now, and perhaps has started, is that from both sides, negotiations, discussions have begun. Although, you know, it was agreed in this memorandum that Lebanon, the attacks on Lebanon will also cease. But Netanyahu, is the main crook. He represents a racist, Zionist, rabid Zionist ideology. He and his partners have been violating these clauses of the memorandum, and bombing of Lebanon continues. So let's see if this memorandum and 60 days of ceasefire hold or they do not. If they do not, then we know who's the villain of the peace. It is primarily the government of Israel with Netanyahu as prime minister. But at the moment, we have all the reason to be optimistic. This is the first time after Vietnam stood up to the Americans and forced the Americans to leave Vietnam, which was a victory for the uh, Vietnamese, although they had been bombed in a way incomparable, even with how bombing took place during the Second World War. It was so intense. This time here also, Iran went through the worst type of bombing and missiles and drones. Of course, Iran fought back very well against Israel, and many of its cities and towns were hit. Its nuclear facilities were hit. Nuclear facilities were hit. So Iran has built itself a defensive uh, uh, capability to withstand, although I think there has been a lot of destruction. What probably uh, is regrettable in a way is that the Iranian regime has become stronger than it was in the past. Only in January, it killed about 40,000 people. And this has started from 2003 when a young girl did not have the chadar on her head properly. And she was taken to a police station where she was tortured and she died. And then started demonstrations against the Iranian regime, which they crushed with a very heavy hand. And now, after this regime apparently must be much stronger. My dentist, my doctor, my immediate neighbor are all Iranians. And they don't like the way this has ended, this MoU, with the Iranian regime very much in power and probably would become more vengeful. My only hope is that the Iranians understand that they can't continue with a medieval ideology, which has resulted in the persecution of women, in the persecution of minorities, in the persecution of political opponents, and which has promoted uh, sectarianism, proxies in the Middle East, which have resulted in bloodshed in many parts of the Gulf area. including, of course, Lebanon. And I do hope the Iranian regime also surprises us by introducing democratic, human rights oriented reforms. But anyhow, today we have to congratulate the Iranians for maintaining their independence, their sovereignty. In these 14 points, it is clearly stated that the sovereignty of Iran, its independence will be respected, and of course that of the United States as well, which we knew from day one were under no threat. But Netanyahu was able to goad on through his Jewish lobby in Iran to start the war. But now we have a memorandum of understanding valid for 60 days in which the 14 clauses they will be discussed, and hopefully permanent peace will be established through a Security Council resolution, which will then become part of international law. Thank you very much. All the best.